Good morning, he said, she said. This is another episode from John and Becca for Wild and Well Together. We are officially on episode number 26, which is awesome. You may hear a different note, not you may. You will, as listeners and as community members, will hear a different ringtone or an intro coming in because Riverside, our platform, has updated it, and in turn, some of the licensing has changed. So we are in the ebb and flow of figuring out what our new intro song is or music is. So if you have a thought, please let us know because I would love to have one that the community picks. So
I'd love some Missy Elliott, but I think the licensing fee's a little rich for me.
what a okay, let's just talk goals. What a cool thing would that be if Missy Elliott okay, we're just gonna speak that into existence. I would love that. Until the day we have Missy Elliott, bring us in. It'll be our voices with a little jingle. So this week, though, we start a series launch into some of the most Googled questions that exist. And so this week is, why am I so tired all the time? You may not know this, but John and I are not sleep experts. So we are not going to get into that. But what I really want us to think about is, what's happening? Why do we feel so exhausted? Why are we feeling tired in a season when, in theory, we're still like alive and vital and have all these things, and yet we just feel like we're dragging? So we'll get into maybe some thoughts there, especially when we do get good sleep. Why might we still be juggling too many things, or our brain feel exhausted even if our body is rested? So before we get in there, John, bring us into playing with chicken. Playing chicken.
I'm playing. All right, let's play some chicken, folks. As a reminder, this is a very dangerous game where we stare down our chores and wait for someone braver to blink, and we figure out which one of us will finally be the hero and do the dreaded task or thing that needs to be done. So mine this week is, man, a lot of updates, but we've sold our house and we need to find a house to rent in for a month. And I've definitely been playing chicken with this. I'm kind of letting Miriam take point on it. And I know it seems important. I've got some other stuff going on concurrently, and it feels overwhelming. Having a roof over our head as a family of five is, very important. So this is not something to play chicken with, but I guess I'm a dangerous man. I don't know.
All I'm going to say is hotel, motel,
I'm
holiday.
like, oh, she's got it.
I'm saying there's options. Worst case, you show up, you bring your stuff, and you make it happen. But no, I'm sure Miriam has stuff going on too. So right, that's the reality of when we play chicken and how we feel overwhelmed. If like the other person will do it. Nah, the other person's got it. So, congrats on the house selling. That's a big deal, especially in today's market. So,
Thank you.
let's announce that.
Yeah. How about you? What are you playing chicken with?
Yeah, and I can actually see it. My window opens up to it. Our garden is beautiful. The lady who the we bought it from an estate of a wonderful woman who's a phenomenal gardener. She also had a lot of time on her hands that I do not have yet. And so we have this beautiful garden. We have a rose bush, which I'm learning a lot about rose bushes. I know you know. It is wily because I've never learned how to like cut it down and then bring it back up and all of that. And we also have water restrictions because Colorado is a high arid desert. And so for so many years, though, we've just said that we are like Midwest or so green. And so we just let water fly. Anyways, water is not prevalent. And so we're on a 2-day a week water restraint. All that to be said, our garden is wily and crazy, and I need to go ahead and still prune it and take things. I realize my window is gone. Like, I should have done it 2 months ago. But with life things happening, I got probably a third of the way done, and I didn't get to that rose bush. And now she is crazy looking, but she's in bloom. So I'm kind of like, do we just let her play? And now there's snakes. We have a beautiful snake section of our yard that my kids love hate because a little scary, but also really cool. So I'm looking at her and I would love for Nick to prune her and then get rid of the snakes.
Like, what kind of snakes are we talking here?
Bull snakes. So not harmful, but also as they get bigger, they're gonna make us all choke.
It could be the most innocuous snake, and I would be losing my cookies. Okay. I've got the phobia of snakes. All right. It is, I would not play well in this scenario.
I don't love the surprise factor of snakes. In fact, I've jumped up on tables outside, different things because we've had snakes. We back up to an open space. It makes sense. I grew up in bigger lots. Like it makes sense, but yet they just scare me. So I'm trying to be really brave. And Marcus is like, look, I found a snake skin. And I'm like, and it's like long. I'll send you the photo later. And I'm like, so cool. Meanwhile, playing chicken with the garden. Yeah.
Yeah, my girls know I'm scared of snakes, and they like to weaponize that. They like to draw pictures of snakes and show, like, are you scared, Dad?"
Dad, look how brave we are. We like snakes and you don't. That's awesome. All right, the life of the hard life, the hard knock life. All right, so coming back into this, questions here for you, and then I'll answer them too. Which is more exhausting for you? Planning vacation or taking vacation?
Planning.
Group text or phone call?
Phone call.
Kids' birthday party or marathon?
Marathon by a nose.
Social media or folding laundry?
Folding laundry. These dainty little shoulders get very sore. Folding T-shirts.
It's all in the wrist. It's all in the wrist.
Yeah.
Family reunion or root canal? That one's a little harsh.
Never been to a family reunion. We don't have them. I can't answer this one.
I love that. Okay,
Okay, back to you. Yeah, planning vacation or taking vacation.
planning a vacation I like to, but planning a vacation, I love a good vacation. I can holiday hard. Group text or phone call? Group text. Those get wild. And sometimes I don't seem out of left field. Don't love surprises. Kids' birthday party or marathon? Marathon. I'm just not there. Social media or folding laundry? Social media. I'm at a season where serves a purpose, but I need a little pullback. And folding laundry is one thing in my life where mowing the lawn is too, where I can see a start that needs to happen and a finish that's completion. And in mental health, often we don't see that. So I'll take social media for more exhausting. I'll do.
You and Miriam need to compare notes on the mowing the lawn. She loves this. She's like, "Get out there." She's like, "You got my lawnmower charged?" We have an electric lawnmower. She's like, "You got that thing charged for me?" No, ma'am. I'll go get on that. She loves it.
We need to chat because I'm all for it. Nick's like, this yard's like, no, we're not going to do it. And I'm like, I'm doing this. So you don't even have to worry about it because I'm going to take this because it's actually therapeutic. So you go play with the kids and I'll handle that. But yeah, we'll have to just compare notes for sure. And then root canal. I really enjoy teeth as far as like, they're very important to me, very grateful for them. Smiles matter immensely to me. And I love a good family reunion. So fortunately, I have experienced them. They're nuts. They're wild. But I don't like going to the dentist and I don't like the idea of like ticking all the machines in my mouth. So root canal is very exhausting. So I share those of like fun way to say, hey, there's different things that meet our needs in different seasons. And there's other things that in theory, like social media or folding laundry, be like, oh, both of those are a breeze. I just jump on for 5 minutes or I just do it for 20, 30 minutes and it's good to go. Same with folding laundry. But at different seasons, it's like, okay, let me prep myself up, figuring out that and just coming to a place of like, okay, maybe it's actually not that I'm tired, but I'm depleted. And so really understand this idea of like the brain uses massive amounts of energy and how do we offload some of this stuff? You and I have talked about practical hacks. We've talked about mental fatigue and what are some ways that we can offload there. And so really thinking like if we're constantly making decisions, switching tasks, managing emotions, solving problems or carrying mental loads, how do we get to a place of relaxation, to a place of rest? So is anything coming up there for you?
Decisions and switching tasks. It's a huge d- mental burden. It's like the transaction cost of doing is the switching tasks. So that one I really really resonates with me, as do I with solving problems, you know?
For sure. Well, and I think like with both of those are mental loads, right? And so one of the other questions that's on there is what's more exhausting, running a 5K, which I would do over a marathon, but running a 5K or attending 6 hours of meetings. Meeting days are so exhausting for me. And I'm like, all I have to do technically is sit there and take notes or give, a little feedback here and there. But when it's one meeting after another, especially when they're not useful or when it could be put into an email, I actually feel more drained by sitting and doing the emotional holding or dedication to meetings than I would if I took a physical test or task like a 5K.
Yeah, I would, in fact, show up better for 6 hours of meetings if I run a 5K before, or I have to do one after to feel like I've rinsed myself cleaning of the meeting fatigue.
Yeah.
It's actually, and I get in a little bit of a cycle because I go, I've been sitting in meetings for 4 hours and I'm exhausted and I have all this other work to be done. And what do I have to show for it? And so then it's like you're tired and also you didn't do this other stuff that is still on the agenda. And it feels like you're getting even further behind.
For sure. As you were talking about, like, that arc of sitting in there, but then, like, if I preload it by a fitness or some sort of adrenaline rush, some sort of physicality, I just took notes on that because I think that's actually something that we need to get into on this podcast because when I worked in Denver public schools, especially a Title I school that really had a lot of students that struggled with academics. And one of the things that we would do is we would strategically put PE or weights prior to their math class or their writing class strategically because we knew if they were really struggling in math or writing, that then if we put some sort of fitness in front of them or some sort of workout, then we would be able to go ahead and offer that offload. So I need to look into the neuroscience again and figure out where to go from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one would be hidden energy leak, this idea of stress. And so getting into like a neuroscience minute, I want us to think about when the stress hormones are elevated, our body acts like it's preparing for a threat all day long. Or until that stress, until our cortisol drops, our body is amped as if it's going to be like, let's go, let's do, we're signing up for battle or we need to stay, hyper vigilant. And so if we're walking around with our brain scanning for danger or our nervous system alert, it's gonna zap us of that energy. If we think about the old Energizer bunnies and stuff or batteries, like they can only run so far, and that's the same as our brain and our bodies until we're like, "Oh, no, we need a reset and a recharge." So, if many of us don't give ourselves that and we go I'll equate it to this. It's like drinking, right? Or like being drunk in the sense of like, there's a hangover afterwards, and if we just constantly move at that rate, it's just like, "Oh, top, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go." And so we often majority of us, if we're living healthy, we say like, "Hey, let's do it in moderation or not at all because it actually affects my body in a way that's not conducive for productivity, for living daily life." And yet we do it all the time with stress and depletion of there. And so our body's going through that same stop, go, stop, go. So even if I get 5 hours of rest or 8 hours of sleep, fingers crossed, then I'm still like, I'm exhausted or I'm hungover the next day because actually our brain's not resting when stress levels are staying so high.
Yeah. Can I again, you know the neuroscience, I know my lived experience. When I was in Alaska, totally de-stressed, I slept, like, uninterrupted for 8 hours, which never happens. Like, it just doesn't happen these days, and, you know, the cortisol just normally is coursing through my veins in the morning, and it then leads to, I'm up early. Today I was up at 3:30, and so I've there is a hangover, and then to take it for, like, the second order effects is leptin. I've been learning about leptin, and this showed up in my blood results, which is the leptin. Leptin is what signals, and again, not a doctor, just reading from what I've been given, but it basically signals fullness. So stressed, you don't sleep as well. This cortisol spikes, and then the leptin is also higher. So then I'm hungry and I'm snacky, and it's just like this cycle. So when I'm not, and I go through phases of not sleeping well, like I gain weight on like a it's like a month cycle, and I'm just realizing how interconnected all these things are here recently, but through blood work, through lived experience, through doing a little bit of research on my own. And for me, that's like the two biggest the two biggest side effects are the hangover feeling that you're referring to, even without a drop of any sort of substance, and feeling hungry.
Interesting, which would be the body response, which Lord knows that I snack a ton when I'm like so stressed and it's like, oh, let me just throw this in my mouth. Let me just grab this. Or like, oh, I'll take an extra bowl of cereal, which again, we are not nutritionists or dietitians. However, I know from lived experience that that's not going to help me with the best. energy levels or weight or different things like that too. And as you were sharing, waking up even at 3:30 a.m., I'm like, oh man, the nights when I get up because my mind is just constantly running, or I think about something that's like, bing, time to go. Like one of the neuroscience that I would add to the what you just talked about, would you just call it what was the L word that you said is in our blood?
Leptin, it's basically what signals from your stomach to your brain that you're full.
Cool. So that's a new term for me to learn, and that's awesome because what I'd say that that pairs with almost is like this idea of our brain doesn't love unfinished loops. For example, when we've had difficult conversations and we haven't found a response after that, or a resolution rather than a response, a resolution of like, nope, we're in a good place. So then my relationship with my mom is disconnected for a season or a moment until I have that reconciliation or that conversation closed. I'm curious how much of my brain and body say I'm actually hungry, or my body would like respond and say like, "Oh, you've closed that loop too. You actually have fed the nutrition." I'm curious if there's a correlation between the brain loops and then the stomach brain loops. It's an interesting study. So if anyone knows that, I'd be curious on that too. But just as you're talking about the stomach to the brain, I'm like, our brain feeds in loops as well. And so what does that look like to yeah, to offset it or offload it again to allow our brain to actually say, no, you're satiated. Like you are full, you're good to go, and you don't need to continue to eat. Or as our brain and cortisol levels are rolling, is that actually keeping our stomach open or the thought of that?
Or is it just as simple as you're tired, your brain says you need carbohydrates and dopamine, which, you know, Cheez-Its provide.
Oh, come on. So true. Yeah. I mean, that's its own thing because when we have a good friend who's he and his wife are both very healthy. And I remember he gave me permission. I worked with him at one of the high schools and he gave me permission. He was like, they have 2 kids ahead of us. And he was like, look, for your first 4, 6 months, whatever you need, put whatever you can in your body because your hormone levels are changing, your energy is changing, your sleep. Like you do just need to get stuff into you. And that was actually a really wonderful gift for someone to give me permission to eat however I needed to, because in that season of depletion in so many other ways, it was just get food in me whatever kind. But now that I'm in a healthier season, it's like, no, let me get back to those rituals and rhythms that are actual fuel for the body and not just this depleting substance. So, yeah. Last thing then is that we get exhausted on often is that we don't bring, it lives in our subconscious, that we don't bring out into the forefront is, am I living with or against my values? Am I going on the same lane with them, or am I actually running up or swimming up the stream, in the sense of sometimes exhaustion comes from constantly performing or putting on a mask or trying to show up. For a lot of people of color, it's code switching, we call it, right? Where it's like, okay, I grew up in this space, but to go into work or go into school, I actually have to act like this. That happens for a lot of us, not just people of color, but that's one example of this idea of performing, not because I have to impress someone sometimes, but sometimes because I just simply need to exist, or I'm not even aware that I'm not fitting in. And so a couple questions there is, am I saying yes when I mean to say no? Am I trying to be someone that I'm not? And this is where I fall into it, is, am I living for everyone else's expectations, or am I actually the North Star for my own life and saying, nope, this checks out for me regardless of what the effects are with other people? Any of those stick out to you?
Am I saying yes when I mean no? Definitely in a work context and family too. It happens in family as well.
You think that's because you're a doer?
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that one, am I saying yes when I mean no is like, yeah, that I don't have much trouble living for everyone else's expectations because I don't know, maybe I'm selfish, but I do have trouble saying no. They're related, but they're different.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It's an interesting piece, and I wonder if it's, again, these are also convoluted and complex. Of, is it because of extroversion? Is it people pleasing? Is it because I just love to do and I'm super like okay with being out and about and figuring it out and I love problem solving? Who knows, right? There's many different things. Yes to many of that. And also in a season, if I feel depleted, how do I ask myself these 3 questions to say, can I eliminate? And maybe even the question of asking feels exhaustive, but is, can I ask myself these questions and hopefully then gain answers that allow me to rest more? So that's the final one. And then the last piece that I'd say for 60 seconds to centered is instead of asking, why am I tired? Ask, what kind of tired am I? This is something that I do with students or in like psychology is saying, asking ourselves, and there's subparts to this, so I can add this in later, but it's really finding out what kind of tired am I? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it emotional or social? So I go through 4 of those with them because for a lot of people, sometimes moms will do this too, but for any of us, really being able to name it allows us to give permission to then finding resources for it or simply saying no to the things that are depleting us. So again, for example, physical would be I need to go get movement, nutrition, actual sleep. Mental would be too many decisions. I need to stop making decisions for other people or myself and just say, yep, nope, or pass. And then information overload in a world of technology right at our hands, right? Putting the phone down, doing what we need to. Emotional, am I carrying stress that I don't need? Do I need to go to Alaska for a week? Because actually that refuels me and recharges me. Unprocessed feelings, that's its own. We can talk about that another time, but just can I even name the feeling that I have inside me? And then social, need connection or need healthy boundaries, right? Two sides of the same coin. So getting back into it, asking ourselves that question, those 60 seconds is not how tired am I, but rather what kind of tired am I? Social, emotional, mental, or physical. And then finding the resources to get ourselves in a less depleted state or in a more recharged state. So that is everything I have to try and answer today. Why am I tired all the time? Anything else from you, Johnny?
If all else fails, see a sleep doctor. I did that as well and had sleep issues just, diagnosed, and that's helped, but I still struggle with this because of all these things. Like, you layer a sleep disorder on with all these other things that we discussed on top of it, and that's a recipe for no rest. So if you work on these and it's still not working, I see a sleep doctor.
Yes, and for parents, I'm yet to see a sleep doctor myself. However, we worked with a like sleep coach for Lulu and me, like to figure out that partnership when she was so little and sleep training. So worth it, parents. Like again, whether for yourself or to allow others around you that you're in charge of to sleep, so then you can get more sleep or at least have the opportunity to try to. So worth it. So I'm with you. That's a great plug in the end to say like there's sometimes it's needed to have that extra support outside or that professional support.
Yeah.
Cool. That is another episode of He Said, She Said. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye bye.